Good morning students. Today we are going to cover the next chapter of your syllabus, that is the age of Gupta, chapter number 6. So in this chapter we will learn about the Gupta's kings. So mainly three kings, important kings are there who play important role in the history of Guptas. So that is Chandragupta first, Samundragupta and Chandragupta II, who is also known as Vikramaditya. Clear? So we will learn about mainly three kings of this period, that is Gupta's period, or we can say that the Gupta Empire. This period, which is lasted from AD 320 to 540. That period is also known as in Indian history the golden age of Indian history. Okay? That period is known as golden age in Indian history. Why this period is known as golden age in Indian history? As in this period, a number of invention done by the kings during that time. Number of invention in different fields, like in the field of literature, education, science. Number of achievements done by, establishment done by the rulers of that period. So that's why this period is known as the age of golden age of Indian history. Clear? So where we get the information regarding the Gupta periods, there are mainly two sources available. One is accounts of Fahim, accounts of Fahim, that is a name of traveler, Chinese traveler who visited India during that time on a religious mission. So he visited India during the reign of Chandragupta. So first king, that is Chandragupta first of this period. So during that period, during Chandragupta's time, Fahim visited India on a religious mission. And during his stay in India, he went on number of pilgrimages like in Kannauj, Kapilvastu, Mathura, Vaishali, Patliputra. So visited number of religious places, and over there he made careful observation related to that areas. So according to Fahim's accounts, what information we received that first he said that he wrote in his account that Magad was a prosperous country. He made remark about the Magad, that it is a prosperous city. Clear? And he said that during that time Magad with large towns teeming with wealthy population live on Magad. Second thing he made that in his account that Patliputra was a flourishing city. Patliputra. He said that Patliputra was a flourishing city, and during that time number of charitable institutions as well as number of hospitals were there in Patliputra. And he observed that peoples over there follow Buddhist code of conduct. They led very simple life. They followed the Buddhist rule of conduct and led simple life, as well as they were wealthy, but they led a simple life. Then number of religions prevalent during that time, like Vaishnavism, Hinduism, Shivaism, Buddhism, Jainism. So number of religions prevalent during that time, but people of that areas, peoples who lived during that time, they had no ill will towards any other aspects, any other religion. They had no ill will regarding any other religion. Then Hindu gods and goddesses pictures. So during that times on coins whose pictures were depicted during that time, Hindus, gods and goddesses. Clear? So during that time he saw that number of pictures depicted on the gold coins which was established by the Chandragupta Maurya and Samundragupta. So he saw that coins also depicted religion, number of religion there. Patliputra flourishing country, but people live simple life. Magad prosperous country. Clear? Then penal code also were there, but penal code was mild and offences were very minor. Means they were during that time crimes were very less. So offences also put by the people during that time only just to the fines for minor crimes. Clear? So according to Fahim, who visited India during that time, he made that during that time people live very simple life as well as good. Clear? Now next source of information is Allahabad pillar inscription. Clear? Here is a picture of Allahabad pillar. Clear? You can see that the picture, that is the main source of information, and this Allahabad pillar inscription was the main evidence of Gupta's periods, which is composed by Hari Sen. So Hari Sen was a court poet during that time who composed this Allahabad pillar. Hari Sen, court poet. Clear? So he composed this Allahabad pillar was composed by him. That this pillar is also known as Prayaga Prasasti. Prayaga Prasasti. Prayaga Prasasti. That is H is there. Prashasti. Clear? Now this pillar is also known as Prayaga Prashasti, and this Allahabad pillar was built on praise of Samudragupta. Clear? The Samudragupta is the son of Chandragupta first. So Samudragupta was the main imperial king of Gupta periods, and in his praise only Allahabad pillar was composed. What is written in that pillar? Number of achievements which was made by Samudragupta, that was written on that pillar. Number of king's name was written, which was defeated by the Samudragupta. Clear? So his achievements over different rulers was written in this pillar. So this inscription is also important because of the political geography of India, that indicate by naming a different name of kings, as different name of kings was mentioned on this pillar, which was defeated by the Samudragupta. Clear? So this source of information is important. Further, number of policies adopted by the Samudragupta to extend his empire, that also towards other kings, whatever the policy adopted by the Samudragupta, that also mentioned on that pillar. So under the policy, first is 9 Aryavarta kings. 9 Aryavarta kings uprooted by the Samudragupta, and their kingdoms were made a part of Samudragupta empire. Clear? So that 9 Aryavarta kings name mentioned on this pillar. Then second, the 12 ruler of Dakshinapath. 12 rulers of Dakshinapath, that achievements mentioned on that pillar, that 12 ruler of Dakshinapath who surrendered Samudragupta after defeating, and they accepted the overlordship of Samudragupta over that area. So 12 rulers of Dakshinapath defeated by Samudragupta, 9 Aryavarta king. Then the inner circle of neighboring states. So neighboring state of Gupta's empires were Bengal, Assam and Nepal. Clear? So neighboring state of Assam means Assam, coastal Bengal or Nepal, all these ready to give them tribute to Samudragupta after defeating. Clear? So they ready to give them tribute annually. It means extension, that territory not annexed by the Samudragupta, but they give them ready to give them tribute. Next is the ruler of outlying area. Outlying areas also submitted him and offered their daughters to marry to Samudragupta. So these type of achievements which was made by the Samudragupta, all these achievements mentioned on the Allahabad pillar. So that's why this pillar is important as a source of Gupta's empire. Clear? So Gupta's empire provided valuable information regarding this. Two main source of information available there. One is Fahian's account. Fahian was a Chinese traveler who visited India during Chandragupta time. Then second is Allahabad pillar, who was made in praise of Samudragupta. Clear? Who made achievements to extend their empire. Now two valuable source of informations were there. Clear? Now next I will tell you about the extension of Samudragupta. That is Samudragupta, number of achievements done by Samudragupta, and his territory was extended, his empire extended from Brahmaputra in the east to Yamuna and Chambal in the west. Clear? That is a extension that from east to west, where his empire was established. His empire extended from Brahmaputra in the east to river Yamuna and Chambal in the west. These are the name of river: Brahmaputra, Yamuna and Chambal. Wherever these rivers flow, that area is extended by the Samudragupta. Samudragupta. Clear? Now next is from Himalaya in the north to south. Clear? Himalaya in the north to Narmada river in the south. Clear? So if we see the north side, then up to starting from Himalaya to Narmada river in the south, wherever Narmada river flows in south area, that territory also extended by annexed by the Samudragupta. So this is the extension of Samudragupta empire from east to west, from north to south. Clear? Now next is this period is known as the golden age of Indian culture. As we already told you, I told you that 320 to 540 AD is known as described as a golden age in Indian history because of the high level of civilization, as people were wealthy and number of crimes were very less, so they had lots of time to did achievements. Clear? So culture of this period also established during that time, and creativity was unleashed in the field of education, literature, art, architecture, science. Clear? So we will talk about first about the education. In the field of education, number of achievements done. So during the Gupta, education was utmost important. It was very important during that time, and the sources which whatever available during that time, we get information with that sources. That there were many center of learning during that time in the city of Patliputra, Ujjain, Nasik, Ayodhya. So number of center of learning available there, and the teacher who teach during that time, they were known as acharyas. During that time, the teacher who taught to the students, that teachers known as acharyas and upadhyas also, and bhattas also. That titles given to them: bhattas, upadhyas and acharyas. And the students who got in means education, they known as disciples as well as shishyas. So teacher during that time known as acharyas, upadhyas, and one more name is given, that bhattas. And students who receive education, they known as disciples, or we can say that shishyas. Clear? So that is a name prevalent during that time, prevalent during that time. And the disciples called shishya, they had to learn 14 subjects, 14 section of science only. Clear? 14 section of science, which include 4 Ved, Purans, Vedans. Clear? So all these things are included in the 14 section of science. So during that time, the education which is given by the Brahmans, mainly Brahmans who were the teachers. During that time, mainly Brahmans were the teachers because they were educated class, and Brahmans known as acharyas, upadhyas and bhattas. Clear? But the Buddhist or Jain's way of giving a system of education were different from this. Clear? How? That different type of Buddhist monasteries established during that time, and they admitted students at least for 10 years. At least for 10 years they admitted students over there, and learning, the way of learning is only oral. Later they start the writing, but starting done by them only oral way. They pass their knowledge from one person to another persons. Clear? The monasteries had libraries and important text also there. Clear? Number of peoples came from foreign also to get education over the monasteries, Buddhist monasteries, and they studies Buddhist religious books also. Even Fahian, in starting I told you that Fahian's account were one of the source of information. He also visited in the several years he spent over there in the Buddhist monasteries, and he studying religious Buddhist books over there. Clear? Higher education was given important during that time, and two popular universities over were there, that is, one is Takshila and other one is Nalanda. So Takshila University was one of the first few centers in the world which offer higher education, first few center of the world who give higher education, and thus this university was however established before the Gupta period came into existence. Clear? So before the Gupta period, Takshila University over there, but during Gupta's time the main university which was established over there, that is Nalanda University. You can see the picture of Nalanda. Today only we can see the ruins of Nalanda University, but that university is an ancient Nalanda University, one of the famous university and renowned education institution of ancient India. Clear? Where it is located? It is located in Bihar, Rajgira in Bihar. Clear? So lots of information related to Nalanda University was there given here. So we learn about the Nalanda University. Few points are written there. You can first see the ruins of Nalanda University, very beautiful as well as big university was there. So from ancient period itself, India exhibit an excellent education system. The great universities established during ancient period such as Taxila University and Nalanda University and Vikramasinghe University have been commendable examples. Nalanda had the most famous and the oldest Buddhist monastery. It is a more old and famous Buddhist monastery which maintain a great universities. Founded by Kumar Gupta in the 5th century CE and later patronized by King Harsh. It was located in the southwest of Bihar, means Rajgira at Bihar. It accommodated 10,000 students. How many students at a time over there? 10,000 students and 2,000 teachers. So more than approximately is written there, 2,000 teachers. Subjects like Buddhist philosophy, Ved, logic, Sanskrit grammar, medicine, mathematics and astronomy were taught in the university. So number of subjects taught during that time. There was a large 9-story library containing many ancient manuscripts. So 9 stories were there. There were meditation hall, public lecture halls and residential quarters for students also, as well as for teachers in the university complex. Perhaps a first for an education institution, the site also had a number of small monasteries. Students travel from many parts of the world such as Tibet, China, Korea, Japan, Central Asia to study here. Means foreigner also came over there to study it. Foreign travelers such as Hyun Tsang and Tai Singh visited and studied in Nalanda and gave detailed account of the universities. It was damaged by Muhammad bin Bakhtiyar. Here it was damaged by Khalji, one of the Khalji ruler in the 12th century. And the entire complex is referred to on seal as Mahavira, which means great monasteries. Clear? So it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So this university was very big university and number of subjects during that time taught to the students, and it provides facility to the student as well as for the teachers also. Mainly 3 libraries were there. How many libraries? Mainly grade 3 libraries were there in this university. That the name of that libraries were Ratnasagar, Ratnodhadhi and Ratnaranjak. Clear? So first Ratnasagar, one is Ratnasagar, another one is Ratnodhadhi and the third one is Ratnaranjak. Clear? So 3 libraries name given in your book, underline it and learn it. Famous library. And there were more than, already I mentioned here, 10,000 students and 2,000 students and students were there, teachers are there, and number of foreign traveler visit there. Clear? Now one more thing is given, important fact about this university was there, that Nalanda University was not ordinary university, it was postgraduate institution in which admission was very difficult during that time. Before admission during that time also examination was held, and the examination was very difficult, and only 20% students were able to pass that exam, and others 70%, 80% rejected. Clear? So though hardly means 20% passed the exam, means only the cream took by the took admission in that university. Only the most brilliant students were admitted to the universities. So this university was great university, but today only the remain of its magnificence and glory can be seen. Clear? So next is our science topic.